Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today we're taking a closer look at an important development in Iraq's foreign exchange market that has captured the attention of currency watchers, economists, and Iraqi citizens alike. Recent reports indicate that the Iraqi dinar has strengthened against the US dollar in the parallel market, with traders in the Kurdistan region suggesting that the trend could continue if current monetary policies remain effective. While every movement in the exchange rate deserves careful analysis, it's equally important to separate measurable economic developments from speculation. In today's update, we'll examine what is actually happening, why the market is responding this way, and what these developments could mean for the Iraqi economy and for those who closely follow the Iraqi dinar. The latest market information shows that the parallel market exchange rate has improved to approximately 154,250 Iraqi dinars per 100 US dollars, after reaching levels near 157,000 dinars only a week earlier. Although this may appear to be a relatively modest movement on paper, the change represents a noticeable strengthening of the local currency within a short period. In foreign exchange markets, especially those influenced by expectations and confidence, even moderate shifts can signal important changes in market psychology. To fully understand the significance of this movement, it is necessary to distinguish between Iraq's official exchange rate and the parallel market exchange rate. The official rate is established and managed by the Central Bank of Iraq and is primarily used within the formal banking system. The parallel market, sometimes referred to as the street market, reflects rates determined by private supply and demand outside the official banking channels. Differences between these two rates often develop when access to foreign currency becomes restricted, when market participants anticipate future changes, or when confidence in official policies fluctuates. Over the past several years, Iraq has experienced periods where the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel market widened considerably. Such gaps often create economic challenges because they increase uncertainty for businesses, importers, and consumers. Import-dependent sectors may face higher costs, while households can experience rising prices for imported goods. Therefore, any indication that the gap is narrowing generally receives significant attention from both policymakers and financial markets. According to local currency traders quoted in the report, one of the primary reasons behind the recent strengthening of the dinar is the stabilization assurances issued by the Central Bank of Iraq. Central banks play an important role not only through direct monetary actions but also through communication. When market participants believe that policymakers have a credible plan to maintain currency stability, confidence often improves. In many cases, expectations themselves become an important driver of exchange rate movements. Confidence is one of the most valuable assets any central bank possesses. If businesses, investors, banks, and ordinary citizens trust that the monetary authority can maintain stability, they are less likely to engage in defensive behavior, such as stockpiling foreign currencies. Conversely, when confidence weakens, demand for dollars often rises as individuals seek to protect purchasing power. The current report suggests that citizens are reversing previous trends by selling US dollars and purchasing Iraqi dinars instead. This behavioral shift is especially noteworthy because currency markets are influenced not only by economic fundamentals, but also by public expectations. When individuals believe the domestic currency is stabilizing or strengthening, they may become more comfortable holding local currency rather than foreign cash. This change in public sentiment can create a reinforcing effect. As more individuals exchange dollars for dinars, demand for the local currency increases. At the same time, increased supply of dollars entering the market can contribute to additional downward pressure on the parallel market exchange rate. These combined effects can help narrow the spread between official and unofficial rates, provided that broader economic conditions remain supportive. However, it is equally important to recognize that exchange rate improvements are rarely driven by a single factor. Monetary policy works alongside fiscal policy. Government reforms, banking sector performance, oil revenues, trade flows, and geopolitical conditions. Iraq's economy remains heavily dependent on energy exports, making oil prices an important source of foreign currency earnings. Stable export revenues provide the government and the central bank with stronger financial resources to support overall economic stability. The Central Bank of Iraq has implemented various measures over recent years aimed at improving transparency within the foreign exchange system. These initiatives have included reforms related to dollar auction mechanisms, compliance with international financial standards, enhanced monitoring of cross-border transactions, and efforts to reduce illicit currency transfers. Such reforms are intended to improve confidence, both domestically and internationally. When market participants believe that foreign exchange regulations are becoming more transparent and efficient, they often become more willing to operate through official financial channels instead of relying on informal markets. Over time, increased use of the banking sector can contribute to greater exchange rate stability and more effective monetary policy transmission. For Iraqi businesses, particularly companies that rely on imported goods, a stronger and more stable dinar can provide several advantages. Importers generally benefit from reduced currency uncertainty because they can better estimate future costs. Greater exchange rate stability may also reduce pricing volatility, making it easier for businesses to plan inventory purchases and negotiate contracts. Consumers may also benefit indirectly if exchange rate stability contributes to slower increases in import prices. Since Iraq imports a wide range of consumer products, food items, machinery, electronics, pharmaceuticals, and industrial materials, fluctuations in the value of the dinar can influence domestic prices across multiple sectors. A stronger local currency has the potential to moderate inflationary pressures, although many other factors also affect consumer prices. It is worth emphasizing that exchange rate movements do not immediately translate into lower prices throughout the economy. Businesses often purchase inventory months in advance, transportation costs fluctuate, and global commodity prices continue to influence retail markets. Therefore, any positive effects on household purchasing power may develop gradually rather than instantly. From the perspective of financial markets, the recent appreciation in the parallel market could also reflect improving confidence regarding Iraq's macroeconomic outlook. Confidence can be strengthened when investors observe consistent policy implementation, stable government finances, and credible commitments from monetary authorities. These elements together contribute to a more predictable economic environment. Nevertheless, experienced market observers understand that short-term exchange rate movements should not automatically be interpreted as evidence of a permanent trend. Currency markets frequently experience temporary adjustments driven by sentiment, seasonal demand, government announcements, or changing liquidity conditions. Sustainable appreciation generally requires continued policy consistency over an extended period. One interesting aspect of the report comes from traders in the Kurdistan region, who anticipate that the parallel market exchange rate could continue moving lower. Such expectations illustrate how market psychology can evolve once confidence begins to improve. However, forecasts made by traders should always be viewed as opinions based on current market conditions rather than guarantees of future outcomes. Several variables will determine whether the current trend continues. The central bank's ongoing policy decisions will remain important. Government fiscal management will also play a role, particularly regarding budget implementation and public spending. Oil market developments could influence foreign currency inflows, while regional geopolitical stability may affect investor confidence and capital flows. Another factor worth considering is liquidity within Iraq's banking system. If access to official dollar transactions becomes more efficient and transparent, businesses may rely less on informal exchange markets. Greater banking sector participation could gradually reduce the importance of parallel market activity over time. International compliance standards also remain relevant. Iraq has continued efforts to strengthen anti-money laundering frameworks and improve financial transparency. Progress in these areas can enhance confidence among international financial institutions and support broader economic integration. Although these reforms may not immediately change exchange rates, they contribute to the long-term credibility of Iraq's financial system. For individuals who closely follow Iraqi dinar developments from outside Iraq, today's news serves as an example of why context is essential. Headlines reporting that the dinar has strengthened can attract significant attention. But the actual significance depends on understanding the underlying drivers. A healthier parallel market reflects improved confidence and market functioning, but it should not automatically be interpreted as evidence of dramatic currency revaluation or sudden structural transformation. Exchange rates are influenced by a complex combination of monetary policy, economic fundamentals, government credibility, market expectations, and international conditions. Responsible analysis requires evaluating all of these factors rather than focusing on any single headline or daily price movement. The recent improvement also demonstrates the importance of expectations in economics. When households believe that holding dinars is becoming more attractive, they may reduce precautionary demand for dollars. Businesses may likewise become more comfortable conducting transactions in local currency. These behavioral adjustments can reinforce exchange rate stability if supported by sound economic policies. Over the short term, market participants will likely monitor several indicators closely. They will watch whether the spread between official and parallel market exchange rates continues to narrow. They will also observe whether public demand for dollars remains subdued and whether commercial banks continue facilitating legitimate foreign exchange transactions efficiently. Inflation data will remain another important indicator. Stable exchange rates can contribute to moderating imported inflation, but broader price trends also depend on domestic supply conditions, fiscal policy, transportation costs, and international commodity markets. Therefore, exchange rate improvements should be viewed as one component of a much larger economic picture. Business confidence may also become an important area to monitor. Stable currency conditions often encourage investment planning because companies can forecast operating costs more accurately. Increased confidence may support expansion in manufacturing, retail, construction, logistics, and other sectors that contribute to economic diversification. Looking further ahead, Iraq continues pursuing broader economic reforms aimed at reducing dependence on oil revenues, strengthening private sector activity, modernizing financial institutions, and improving public sector efficiency. While these structural reforms require time, consistent progress can create a stronger foundation for long-term monetary stability. Currency strength ultimately reflects the overall health of an economy rather than simply administrative decisions. Sustainable appreciation generally depends on productivity growth, fiscal discipline, diversified economic activity, healthy foreign reserves, effective governance, and credible monetary policy. These are long-term objectives that require continued commitment from policymakers. It is also helpful to remember that central banks typically prioritize stability over rapid exchange rate movements. Excessive volatility can create uncertainty for businesses and consumers alike. Therefore, policymakers often seek gradual improvements supported by underlying economic fundamentals rather than abrupt changes that could disrupt financial markets. The current report illustrates how communication from the central bank can influence expectations. Clear policy guidance reduces uncertainty and allows businesses and households to make more informed financial decisions. Effective communication is increasingly recognized as one of the essential tools available to modern central banks. As confidence improves, financial institutions may experience increased participation from customers conducting transactions through official banking channels. Greater use of regulated financial services can strengthen monetary policy effectiveness while supporting broader financial inclusion. Over time, these developments may contribute to a more resilient financial system. For international observers, today's development highlights that Iraq's economic story continues to evolve. Progress often occurs through incremental improvements rather than dramatic overnight changes. Narrowing exchange rate spreads, strengthening confidence, improving financial transparency, and continued institutional reforms all represent important indicators that economists monitor when assessing long-term economic stability. At the same time, caution remains appropriate. External risks such as fluctuations in global oil prices, regional geopolitical developments, international financial conditions, and domestic political dynamics could all influence future currency performance. Economic progress rarely follows a perfectly straight path, and policymakers must remain prepared to respond to changing circumstances. For Iraqi citizens, the most meaningful benefits of exchange rate stability would ultimately come through greater purchasing power. more predictable prices, improved employment opportunities, stronger business investment, and sustainable economic growth. These outcomes depend not only on currency markets, but also on continued progress across multiple areas of economic policy. For followers of Iraqi Dinar News, today's report represents a positive indication that current stabilization measures may be influencing market behavior. Increased willingness among citizens to hold dinars rather than dollars suggests improving confidence, while the strengthening of the parallel market exchange rate reflects changing supply and demand dynamics. However, these developments should be evaluated within the broader framework of Iraq's ongoing economic reforms rather than viewed in isolation. As always, one day's market movement does not determine the future direction of an economy. Financial markets continuously respond to new information, policy decisions, and changing expectations. Responsible analysis involves monitoring trends over time, while considering the many economic variables that influence currency values. We'll continue following developments involving the Central Bank of Iraq, the parallel foreign exchange market, banking sector reforms, government economic policies, inflation trends, and broader macroeconomic indicators to provide balanced and factual coverage of events affecting the Iraqi dinar. Thank you for watching today's Iraqi Dinar News Update. If you appreciate responsible, factual, and balanced coverage of Iraq's economy and the Iraqi dinar, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so you don't miss future updates. As always, this content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be considered financial investment or trading advice, and viewers should conduct their own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making any financial decisions.